All right, fifth grade. So we're going to be finishing up chapter 9 here today. This says, without calculating, tell whether the product is less than, greater than, or equal to each of its factors. Well, first of all, the product, remember, is the answer to a multiplication problem. The factors are the numbers in the problem. Like in this first one, 1/4 times 1/12. 1/4 and 1/12 are the factors. So, basically, this is a mental math exercise. And basically, what you're going to be doing is just looking at the numbers within the problem, and you're trying to figure out whether the product, the answer to actually doing the multiplication problem, which you're not going to do. You're not actually going to be multiplying here in this lesson, but you're trying to figure out whether the product will be less than, greater than, or equal to each of its factors. So, 1/4 times 1/12. Well, to figure out whether or not it's going to be equal or less than or greater than these factors, we have to look at the factors. So 1/4 and 1/12 are both fractions, which means they are both less than 1. Well, they're fractions that are not improper fractions. The numerators are smaller than the denominator. 1 is less than 4, 1 is less than 12. So both of these fractions are less than 1, which means that I'm multiplying each of them by a different number that is not even equal to 1. So I'm not even counting it one time, which means for both of these, okay, 1/4 is going to be greater than the actual product because I'm not even counting 1/4 one time. Okay, and once again, 1/12 is going to be greater than the product because I'm not even counting 1/12 one time. So the answer is going to be something less than 1/12. I'm not even multiplying 1/4 by 1. The answer is going to be less than 1/4. Well, 2/3 times 5. Well, here I am taking a fraction that is less than 1, and I'm multiplying it by a number greater than 1. So 2/3 is actually going to be less than the product. However, with the 5, I'm taking the 5 and I'm multiplying it by something that's less than 1. So I'm going to get an answer that's less than 5. So 5 is greater than the product. And this is how you'll write your answers. All right, we're going to look at a few more. 3 4/5 times 6 7/8. Well, 3 4/5 is bigger than 3. 6 7/8 is bigger than 6. So I'm going to say that 3 4/5, because I'm multiplying it by almost 7, is going to be less than the product because I'm multiplying it by something that's bigger than 1. Same with 6 7/8. I'm multiplying it by 3 4/5, which is a number that's bigger than 1. So my product is actually going to get bigger. So 6 7/8 is less than the product. Well, 7/10 times 4 8/9. I'm taking 7/10, which is a proper fraction less than 1, but I'm multiplying it by something bigger than 1, by 4 8/9. So this number is actually going to get bigger with the product. So 7/10 is actually going to be less than what the product is going to be. My product is going to be bigger. But with 4 8/9, I'm multiplying that by something that's less than 1. So I'm not even counting this one time. So my answer is actually going to be less than 4 8/9, which tells me that 4 8/9 is going to be greater than my product because I'm counting it not even one time. All right, the last couple, 1/6 times 10/10. Well, one of the first things you want to remember is that anytime the numerator and the denominator are the same number, this fraction is equivalent to 1. So it basically means I'm taking 1/6 and I'm multiplying it by 1. Well, that means then that 1/6 is going to be equal to the product. Because anytime I take a number and multiply it by 1, it equals 1/6. And well, the 10/10 then, since I'm multiplying that by something that's less than 1, 10/10 is going to be greater than my product because I'm not even multiplying it by 1 time. Last one, 9/2 times 1 3/4. Well, 9/2, it's an improper fraction. So we know that this number is greater than 1. I'm taking a number that is bigger than 1 and I'm multiplying it by more than 1 time, 1 3/4. So that tells me that 9/2 is going to be less than my product because my product is simply going to get bigger. Same with 1 3/4. 1 3/4, I'm counting that more than 1 time. So my answer is going to be bigger than 1 3/4. 1 3/4 is going to be less than my product. All right, let's look at the second half of what you're going to be doing today. Once again, without calculating. Mental math trick. Order the products from least to greatest. All right, once again, not doing any type of figuring. We're just putting the problems in order from least to greatest based on what their product will be. So if I see in this problem, all of them have 5/6. Well, in this first one, I'm taking 5/6 and I'm multiplying it by 1 8/9, a number that's bigger than 1 8/9. So my answer here is going to be bigger than 5/6. Well, 5/6 times 1/3, I'm taking the 5/6 and multiplying it by a fraction in proper form, but it's a fraction that's less than 1. So my answer here is going to be less than 5/6. So we can make some notes here. Here my product is going to be greater than 5/6. Here it's going to be less than 5/6. And here, 5/6 times 7/7. Well, remember 7/7 is 1. Okay, so here 7/7 is 1. And so it's going to be equal to 5/6. Well, then, to put these in order from least to greatest, the least one is going to be this, where the product is less than 5/6. So that one will come first, 5/6 times 1/3. And what would come next will be this one then, where it's equal to 5/6. So 5/6 times 7/7, because we want to put the original problem. And the greatest one is going to be this one, where I'm multiplying it by something bigger than 1, where the answer is greater than 5/6. So it's going to be 5/6 times 1 and 8/9. All right. Well, our last one here, without calculating, order the products from least to greatest. 1/6 times 1/4. 1/10 times 1/4, 5 7/10 times 1/4. So the constant is 1/4. Well, when we look at these first two, it's a little different than the original one. Let me put a line here. This is a little different than the first one that we did. Here in this one, once again, we have 1/4 times 5 and 7/10. So I'm multiplying the 1/4 times something that's bigger than 1. So my 1/4 is getting bigger. So here my product is going to be greater than 1/4. But when I look at these two, I see that they both, the 1/4, are being multiplied by fractions. Okay? They're both being multiplied by fractions that are in proper form. So they're both less than 1. So for both of these, my 1/4 is getting smaller, which means that my product, okay, is going to be less than 1 over 4 for both of them. So now the problem is, well, then how do I figure out, actually I wrote that wrong, sorry. I put greater than 1 over 4. 1 over 4 should have the open mouth to it because that's the bigger number. My mistake. Here, my product is greater. Here, my product is less than 1 over 4. Okay, so anyway, back to my original question though. How do I take that situation now and figure out which one of these is actually smaller? Because now I'm actually, what I'm going to need to do is to compare 1 over 6 and 1 over 10. I need to figure out which one is bigger. The one that is bigger will give me a bigger answer. The smaller one will be the smallest one. We already know that this is the biggest one because it's going to be greater than 1 over 4. So if I was to actually make a list, okay, here I'll put my first one there, I'll put my second one over here, I'll put my third one, 5 7/10 times 1 over 4. I know that that one comes last in my least to greatest order. But what I'm comparing is 1 over 6 and 1 over 10. So I'm thinking, well, 1 over 6, I'm going to compare that with 1 over 10. Well, whenever I want to compare fractions, remember, we want to find a common denominator. So I'm thinking, well, 10 times 1 is 10. That does not work with 6. 10 times 2 is 20. That does not work with 6. But 10 times 3 is 30. 6 times 5 is 30. So I can make both of these fractions something over 30. Well, 10 times 3 is 30. So 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times 5 is 30. 1 times 5 is 5. Well, that's 5 over 30. That's 3 over 30. So 1 over 6 is the bigger number, which means that that's going to have a larger product than 1/10 times 1 over 4. So my smallest one is the 1/10 times 1/4. My middle one is the 1/6 times 1/4. And as we established, the biggest product is going to be 5 7/10 times 1 over 4. All right, we'll talk to you later, 5th grade. Bye.